name is Els. I'm from the Netherlands and I live in a small town called Zwiep. And I have a market garden there that is approximately 0.6 hectares. And I do self-harvesting. It's a CSA, so community supported agriculture. And the people that are connected to the farm, they pay a yearly fee, and then they can come and harvest whenever they want for that season. I started this because I wanted to be the change. Before I became a farmer, I was a researcher at the university, doing very interesting research on short food chains. But after being a researcher for quite a while, I realized that I wanted also to materialize the change with my hands. And I felt that I couldn't do that enough in research. So I quit my job and I started a farm. And I started with pigs and chickens and vegetables on free land. And I paid in harvest. And so I was sort of a traveling farmer around the area. And I did that for 2 years. And then I decided I only wanted to do vegetables, and I settled on a piece of land and continued doing that. And I realized that I really have a story to tell, and I want to change the narrative, the dominant narrative in the Netherlands of how food is produced, and that I have a completely different story to tell that is much more inclusive. So my main interest is in involving all forms of life and not just human beings. So that's my something that I don't want to fight for. I'm not someone who would stand up and with a sign. But fortunately, there are a lot of people in the organization in the Netherlands that do that. But I'm more the person that writes the stories, writes the poems, and tells the story to other people to, well, I wouldn't say teach them, but to, well, tell my story. So a different story is being told and different voices are being heard compared to the dominant voice of industrial capitalized farming. Yeah, it's a very logical thing. First I had when I first read about the feminism and agroecology, I thought, I don't know, I didn't get it. But now the funny thing is, now that I'm here, I'm more and more starting to understand why I didn't understand, and that's conventional farming is so embedded in our whole society, and the way we look at farmers. Even though alone the word farmer in the Netherlands, it's a masculine word. If you say to a woman the woman version of farmer, in English it doesn't exist. In Dutch it's boerin. Then you're not the farmer. In the word, it's captured that you are the woman of the farmer. So if you are a woman farmer, you say the masculine word. And it's so in our language we have embedded, or it's captured in there, how we look at farming. So the word says enough in Dutch. So that's why I never really thought of it. And also in agroecology, in the movement, it is so inclusive and it touches upon so many issues that in our community within Toekomstboeren, and I think it's now we have 350, 400 farmers in the organization. It is so inclusive that I never thought how not inclusive conventional farming is. That is nearly only white males in the Netherlands. So the whole narrative of farming in the Netherlands that you generally hear, and the way we produce food, the way we talk about it, the way it's captured in politics, in policies, is so white male dominated that it never really occurred to me how special agroecology is, how inclusive it is. So now I understand and I know why it's and why I do what I do. I think that the project will help me to better tell our story. We, with our organization, we are in a process of building the story internally, so we actually know what is our story. Because each individual has a story, but very often it's not an explicit story. It's not conscious. It's a very unconscious story. It's so maybe normal for that person, but they have never really thought about what is actually our story and what do we want to tell and how is that different and how can we collectively tell that story and reach a larger public. And it really helps me being here, hearing different stories that I can connect to our story and then bring back home to our organization in further building our story and making it solid and yeah, bringing that into the world. The access to land is a big hurdle for me personally, but for many people in the Netherlands. Lease contracts, so not only access to land, but once you have access, have good contracts for the future, for a long-term future. So you can actually build soil, you can build communities, you can build social networks from that place. And I think maybe I'm very prejudiced now, but I think that when you have not worked the land, you don't know how important a place is for, well, for a farmer. To really connect to a land is like putting your heart there and just so it's very vulnerable. It's a very vulnerable process, and I think that's really not very well understood. So it's difficult to talk about rights to land just from a sort of a head perspective, a legal perspective, because as a farmer, there's so much more behind it. It's not only the right to the land, but it's actually the connection you have with that land, and that everything you put in there, you just want to make sure that your great grandchildren are still able to enjoy it and be connected with everything that is moving there. So for me, that is a really big challenge, and it still is. And I had to leave my first piece of land after 5 years, and that was much harder than I thought. So it's exactly what I just said. So I realize now even more how important it is to have a long-term view, so you can really build from that physical place, because you need physical places to build stories. Otherwise, they're just, I don't know, up in the sky, but they need to be rooted in a place. So, yeah, this whole industrialized, capitalized model is just, it's such a big burden, and don't want to fall into the trap of fighting against it, because it's when I see in my area, we have a foundation to improve the biodiversity, and there's some very large-scale industrial farms there. And it's a challenge for everyone, but we are connected. There are also hunters in the foundation, and it's a very mixed group. And it would be very easy for me to just not look at this guy and just think he's not there and I'm not going to be involved and I hate you because I hate what you do. But in the end, he's also a person, and I always try to be on speaking terms with people, because then there's still a way to sort of interweave, and that's not easy, but yeah, when so much is being destroyed, and the whole system is built around it. But that's what I always try to, yeah, keep the conversation going.